Okay, welcome everybody. This is just a quick preview, look ahead of what we're working on today. In this quick tutorial, we've got ornaments. So controlling our main window with a detached controller just for additional controls and information for the end user. So if you're looking for an ornament, especially how to position them off frame, this will be a good video for you. Stay tuned. Okay, so next up we have ornaments. What's an ornament and how can we use them in our Vision Pro applications to enhance the end user experience? Well, we'll try to answer both those questions as quick as we can, and we'll start with what is an ornament? Well, to show that, I've launched a Vision Pro simulator here, and I've launched within that simulator the built-in Safari application. So the native Safari application within the Vision Pro, you open it up, go to google.com, this is what it looks like. So you'll notice a couple things. We've got the main window here, which has our traditional web viewing experience. So just like you would do on a computer or on a phone, you've got your web experience here. Works just like you'd expect it to. Type whatever you want into the search bar. It'll function as normal, except what makes it different than, say, your iPhone or your web browser is all the controls are completely removed from that window view. So we have our window here, and instead of there being a toolbar up top or on the bottom even, we've got it completely separated out into this pill sort of styled view. So its own independent view, and it has all the controls that you'd expect to find within Safari or any web browser that exists outside of your traditional window. So we can open new tabs, we can open new windows, we can share, navigate to addresses, but all of that occurs outside of the main content view. So with Safari, clear use case there for what that looks like and why that is the way it is. But if you extend that to your own applications, the idea of removing some of the overhead from the main viewpoint for your user and putting it somewhere else that they can access when needed, that's a great way, I guess, to allow focus on what you're really trying to drive experience-wise for the user. So with that in mind, we have this as a frame of reference. Let's jump into Xcode and talk about how we actually build that for ourselves. So we'll start completely new. So let's go new project. Cool, next. Orna testing. The rest of it's just standard, normal, out of the box Vision Pro application. So didn't change anything there. We've got a brand new, regular looking Apple Vision Pro app. And we'll see it in the canvas in a second. But because we're only worried about the ornament aspect of this now, I'm going to go ahead and trim out all of this kind of overhead, all the bloat that we won't necessarily need for this demo. So we'll leave just the text in the VStack. We can leave the padding, but we'll take out the on change because we're not worried about that immersive scene anymore. And we should be left with a VStack with text that says hello world centered on our window. Okay, and we do. So if we see that on the right-hand side, I'll make this a little bit bigger. We've got just hello world in our window view, and now we can shift focus to the ornament aspect of this. So how do we actually add the ornament to this VStack window? Well, we're just going to hit dot ornament at the end of this VStack. So when we do that, we're prompted with two other items that they're wanting us to define. We have an attachment anchor and we have the ornament itself. So the attachment anchor is just going to be where do we want to position the ornament in relation to our window. So it's going to be positioned in the scene. So we'll hit dot scene, and then it wants us to provide an anchor unit point. So we'll hit dot here again, and you'll see all the traditional, I guess, like positioning props that you can pass in for something like this. In our case, like Safari, we'll put it up top. You can put it leading, you can put it trailing, you can put it on the sides, put it on the bottom. Depending on what you're doing, there'll be certain areas that make more sense than others. But for our use case, this should be plenty fine for what we're kind of working on. So we'll have just on top the ornament itself. We'll go ahead and just define a custom view. That's all this is a custom view. And in our case, what we'll do is let's just do a VStack. I'll put two spacers in here so we can sandwich whatever we're putting in our H stack right in the middle. And this could be, again, pretty simple, but knowing myself where I want to kind of go with this, I'm going to set up just a piece of text centered within an H stack. So there we are, and we have it pop up now on our canvas. We have Hello Moon up top, and a couple observations here that we'll hit right away. One, this doesn't feel very separated from the main content window. So by default, that's one thing to keep in mind is they don't actually position this off the screen when you first define these. It's something you have to customize yourself if that's how you want it. And it's not super obvious, I guess, at all times how you do that. But for our sake here, we've got Hello Moon up top, and we want to space that out a little bit. Second thing we have is there's no backdrop. So this text by itself right now especially looks like maybe some text that we had in the main window that we just didn't position very well. So two things that we'll fix with that, and both things that we'll use in order to do that aren't super surprising. One, spacing, obviously, or padding. The other one is going to be, we're going to add a glass background effect to this ornament. So just with that one line, dot glass background effect, it still looks not great, but we at least have something showing for this Hello Moon sort of aspect up top. So the text now has some backing to it. It does feel like it has some depth as a result, but we're kind of just getting started. So we have the glass background effect. And the second thing we want to do is we want to position this off the screen. So in order to do that, we are going to define some actual, no kidding, padding for this. So we'll hit dot padding. Instead of just leaving this open closed, in this case, we're going to want to define, let's see if we can get it to actually fill in for us. And I'm not seeing it. We're going to want to define a edge insets. So edge insets for the actual padding style, and then here we'll select the one that has top, leading, bottom, and trailing. So this allows us to set the no kidding spacing for all of these. Since we're on the top, we don't really need top spacing. We're not going to worry about knocking anything off center right now, so we'll hit zeros for all of these, or for leading and trailing. And then for bottom, let's start with, we'll say 50 for our padding on the bottom. And just like that, we now have separation between our ornament view and the main window, which is exactly what we're hoping to get there. So hello world, hello moon, all that split out. And yeah, so I guess like in terms of the bare bones, we have the bare bones ornament existing now. What can we do with this? If you're building an app, what might your controls look like up top? We can just play around a little bit with this one here. And I had a book app I was working on for a little while. And what this would have been interesting to use it for would be if we had a state variable that we defined called page num, and we can set this to 1. And we had, we'll just say this one is var pages. We could say, hello, nice to meet you, goodbye. So 3 pages in a really, really short, simple book, and a page number to reference where we are in this page book. So I guess knowing that we're using a list or an array here, we'll bop this down to 0 just for indexing purposes. But with this ornament now, what we'll want to do is use that to control what page we're on. So in our VStack here, we will change this from being a static just string to something a little more dynamic. We'll say we want to put pages, page num within this text view. And when we do that, we have hello. So the first page of our list array here showing in the main window. And we want to be able to use our ornament now in order to actually control that. So what we'll do in the ornament is we can say spacer and add a no kidding other aspect of this to worry about actually being able to control that page number. So in our case, what we can do is add 2 buttons. And the way we'll do that is we'll go button, and we will define an action. And in this case, the action is going to be to increase the page number. Or let's see, yeah, increase the page number. We'll put this inside a set of brackets. The page number will be minus equals 1 and 1 button. And we'll provide a label for this one. But instead of it being a traditional label, we'll use a image with a system icon in it. We can do chevron left as the icon, foreground color. I guess when we need it, so we'll just do chevron that left, and then we can do clip shape. And we'll just have this be a circle. So creating a circle button to move items to the left. We didn't close the bracket, so, or the parentheses. So we've got 1 button that goes backwards. We should see that now pop up, boom. And then we can add a second button that does the exact opposite. Or we'll go chevron right, we'll go plus equals 1, and we'll just see how that looks. So we should have 2 buttons and a title. And we'll notice right away that this doesn't look great. It looks really crammed. So how can we go about spacing this out? Well, like with everything else, you can provide an actual note-kidding frame for this. So frame, and we can just pass a width, we can say something arbitrary like 800. So there we go, we have a wider frame now, but the flip side of that is you don't necessarily always want to have that defined as is, right? This window gets smaller, ornament's still huge. So what I like to do is we'll just use a standard geometry reader. With geometry set to go in, we'll throw this all the way down here. And now anywhere within this view area, we can use geometry to provide an accurate width. So in this case, we can go geometry.size.width, and now it should be the same size as our main window, and there you have it. So knowing now that it's still really close, we'll pop this up a little bit higher, and we'll see on both sides here, we've got our text and our buttons running up right against the edges of this sort of view. So what we can do is just, like with everything else, add some padding here. So on the title aspect of this, we'll put it leading. Should bump it off, which it does. And then with the buttons, we can take the rightmost one and add padding that is trailing. So now they should be off the edges of the ornament. And again, that isn't like it's not gonna win any beauty pageants, but this is a much nicer looking ornament than we had just a second ago. And what's great here is we should be able to just hit the buttons and it changes the content right in our view. Now, unfortunately, if we go too low, we're out of page range and it has a huge issue with that. So that from like a content perspective, but that's because we know that we violated the bounds of this sort of controller down here. So how can we address that? And this is where the capability of the ornament comes really kind of full circle, is we can say we want this to be disabled if page num equals 0. So if we get to 0, we don't want this to be clickable. And on the opposite end of that spectrum, we want this one to be disabled if page num is 2, right? So just like that, we can no longer click that first page. So we don't have to worry about the bounds anymore. So yeah, I mean, just really simple example again of an ornament. I'll say, I guess, as one last kind of parting thing that I've run into that might be helpful for anyone working on this, I think it looks clean to have a bottom anchor. I like the idea of it being on the bottom more than I like it being on the top generally. So we'll just flip our spacing around. However, the one thing that gets a little problematic if you have it on the bottom is you can no longer easily interact with this sort of grab menu bar on the bottom of the controller. So it's bumped it below our ornament. So it's not super hard to interact with, but if you had a lot of buttons here, for example, all of a sudden getting to this can be a little bit more tough. So not super relevant to the whole conversation, just one last tidbit for you there, but hopefully this serves as a pretty good example of kind of what's possible with an ornament. And I'll be excited to see what you guys do with that from here. So maybe in another video we'll cover navigation via ornament. There's some apps that have really nice looking ones that are on maybe the side here. But for now, custom ornaments, putting controls off the main window, this is how you'll approach that. So I'll leave you with that, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.